Hello. Two important events happened this week. Events. I described one of them in detail in the comments. In Economics in Russian, which was published today. This is a reduction in the U.S. Federal Reserve's interest rate. And the second event is Trump's visit to London. Such a very pretentious visit. If we talk about reducing the rate, I have described the economic details. But there was one curious moment there. The thing is, the vote was almost unanimous. Only one person, a recent Trump appointee, voted for an even bigger rate cut. But everyone, including the well-known either Madam or Mademoiselle Cook, voted for the cut. This made me suspect that some kind of deal had taken place. Who, with whom, and how? Of course, there is no direct answer to that question. But we can make a hypothesis. I'm starting to form a hypothesis. Here it is. The thing is, Trump's grand visit to London was inevitably supposed to be accompanied by what he calls a deal. Now, let's imagine that behind the leadership of the Federal Reserve are the Euro-Atlantic elites who, after Trump came to power, underwent a major transformation in the sense that the key figures there are no longer American or continental Western European, but British from London. In other words, the ideology is now being written and shaped in London. So, the question is, could the London Euro-Atlanticists have handed Trump over to the Federal Reserve? Let's take a look. Let's recall. I've discussed this topic many times for many years. What could save the British elites? We won't get into the details now, like which global project they support, and so on. And so forth. Just, so that they can survive as players. It's absolutely clear that for this to happen, the United Kingdom must remain as some kind of center. It doesn't matter whether it's a financial center, a center of the world economy, or something else. Yes, the United Kingdom is the center of a very important network structure, like, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Specifically, I mean shadow deals, drugs, and other things, with a focus on the Indian Ocean and Southeast Asia, particularly from this western side. But there, the role of the elites is starting to become more and more significant. The Indian elites. And these are the kind of guys you really can't mess with. So, in short, the United Kingdom is needed. In order to preserve it as a player, it has to control much larger markets than it currently does. And again, as I've explained many times, there aren't that many pieces left from which you can carve out markets for yourself. One of them, and probably the most obvious, is Western Europe. And in fact, we can see that the independent, sovereign elites in Western Europe have been completely wiped out. Just totally wiped out. But there is one circumstance. There is the European Union, which, generally speaking, has quite a few subsidized members from the Baltics to Greece. You can't just kick them out, because that would destroy the whole concept, and keeping them is incredibly expensive. For now, all this support is being shouldered by Germany and the United States of America. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom has tried every which way to digest Germany, but it just isn't working. In other words, they've removed any political agency, and the government is just completely useless. There are no political elites in Germany today, and yet they still can't manage to digest it. That's exactly why, not so long ago, I mentioned the idea of pitting Germany against Russia, hoping that Germany would fall apart as a result. There's no time. It's too long and too complicated. So, the entire European Union is propped up by American money, by the Federal Reserve swap lines. And Trump really hates that. Now, just imagine this, that the deal is set up as follows. We, London, give you, well, to be more precise, we stop supporting the team that's currently running the Federal Reserve, and you handle it yourself. You digest it. Trump will do that, without a doubt. In return, you give us control over the European Union. To us, meaning London. In other words, all the money that currently goes to the European Central Bank through swap agreements, all the support that goes to Ukraine via Brussels, and everything else, you hand over to us. And then we'll decide who gets what, or who doesn't get anything. Obviously, neither the Baltics nor the Eastern European countries, except maybe Poland, though honestly Poland isn't much better. London won't give anything to anyone. Its goal is to break up the European Union and take control of the Western European countries. At the same time, if the European Union falls apart, whether Germany remains whole or not becomes much less important, because those Western European countries will be taken over. One by one, piece by piece. Yeah, if you can't eat an elephant all at once, you have to eat it piece by piece. Makes sense, it's reasonable. And at the same time, Germany itself is unlikely to remain whole either, because it depended on the EU market. That was their market too, they sold to them. If that market is taken by the United Kingdom, then in that case, well, there are no buyers in Eastern Europe, everyone there is poor, and the West will be taken away. So in that case, the standard of living in Germany drops dramatically, and then political infighting begins. After that, there are different possibilities, like Austria-Hungary, back and forth, but that's no longer important, because this part, the United Kingdom, won't take Italy. Italy means the Vatican. London won't get involved with the Vatican. It doesn't need to. It needs Western Europe, maybe Norway, Denmark, the Benelux countries, France, Spain, Portugal. That's the piece the United Kingdom wants to get. For now, it doesn't need anything else. Whether it will succeed or not is another question. Just like Trump still has to take the Fed. In the same way, London needs to take Western Europe, and to start with, break up the European Union. But chaos is a must. And by the way, for this reason, when Poland closed its borders with Belarus, it also blocked Chinese transit. In other words, the European unions are already starting to create problems. Let me remind you, Poland is a London client. Well, the situation with the airports is a separate topic, although I suspect that logistical chaos is also one of the elements London will use to take control. How will they do it? Well, one option, for example, is to sign a mutual security guarantee agreement amid the chaos, under which, say, compliance control at the ECB, will be carried out by London. I'm just simplifying. Let me point out, we will never find out about this agreement. Well, at least not at the moment it gets signed. And after that, considering that all the money comes from London, the financial system will be brought under full control pretty quickly. That's the picture. Today I asked a prominent representative of the German establishment. Since I didn't ask him if I could mention his name, I won't do that. He told me, when I asked whether people in Germany are aware of this deal, that people do understand, but he meant the elite, of course, not the government. In other words, in Germany, they understand this scheme. Whether they will do anything, whether they can do anything, and how they will do it. What the Vatican will do in this situation is a separate topic, which we won't touch on for now. So, for now, today's commentary on current events is dedicated to just one circumstance. That is, the deal that Trump could have made in London. By the way, I want to draw your attention to the fact that London needs to act quickly, for a very simple reason. If Trump gets firm control over the Fed, he'll forget about this deal that very minute. Whoever I owe, I forgive them all. That's why London doesn't have much time. So if they're going to create chaos in Europe, they'll do it literally within a month. But this topic is very interesting. It seems to me that the time has come when the political elites have started to go all in. Because you can't make such powerful geopolitical changes quickly. They need time to take root. If you do them quickly, the risks of explosions are very high. Well, the Bolsheviks seized power in October 1917 and, as a result, got a civil war in response. I don't know how all this will end, but the hypothesis itself, which with each day, with each hour, looks more and more plausible, especially since I got confirmation from Germany that this idea doesn't seem crazy to them, suggests that the time left before some kind of explosion, after which everyone will have to lay their cards on the table, is running out. And there's one more thing we need to understand. Because of how virtual the political landscape has been in recent years, it could very well turn out that most of the players are bluffing. That's why, if they want to get any kind of result, they need to get it quickly. Because when the cards are on the table, it might suddenly turn out that you don't have an ace-king, or even two aces like in Texas Hold'em, but just a 7 and a 9 of different suits. That's the picture we're looking at. But it's absolutely clear that we need to keep an eye on this situation. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.